This is huge for the Dallas Cowboys. Their draft position is set, and they got some targets that they're going to be looking at that specific position, so we'll break that down and much more on this episode of Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody, to Cowboys Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, and this is the end. The end to a grueling season, a frustrating season, and just a season where expectations were not met in the slightest. But if you guys are enjoying the daily Dallas Cowboys content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because a large percentage of you who are watching these videos are not subscribed to the channel, and it means the world to me. We just passed 3,000 subscribers. Let's not stop it right there. Let's get to 5,000, hopefully by draft day. But shout out to you guys. The support has been real, and it really means the world to me. But let's get into it here. And the Cowboys slide up to number 12 after the Indianapolis Colts won today. So as of now, they are in the number 12 position. I don't know if it can get any higher than that, but still solid. Just to put it into perspective, I mean, CeeDee Lamb was a mid-first round pick. Micah Parsons was the 12th overall pick. So the Cowboys are going to pick up a very good player in the first round. That is not what I'm worried about. That is not my concern. My concern is how are they going to handle the rest of the drafts, because that's where drafts are won. If you can pick up starters in the 3rd, 5th, 6th rounds, that is where you are going to separate yourself from the other teams, because you have starting players that are getting paid the league minimum or close to the league minimum, and that is where you could spend money in other areas and address other holes that your roster may have. So it was a season of disappointment, and when it was all but lost, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys started to win games and give us hope for the playoffs, but a couple of weeks ago they were officially eliminated, and they haven't won a game since. So at least that's the good news. They didn't tank their draft position completely. We're not seeing them draft in the late teens, which would have been a disaster in my opinion. Not a disaster, but they wouldn't have gotten one of the studs from this draft. And it's not an overly deep draft class by any means, but what it is there's a lot of talent, and there is an opportunity to make this team significantly better if they nail the right selections, and that's what I'm worried about. Now, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones spoke after the game about Mike McCarthy and the roster that he provided to McCarthy, because they asked him, did you have any regrets about the on-field product that you built specifically? And he said, I think it's fair. I think that's very fair. I always provide the roster for the coaches. If you don't get there, then you've always got some second guessing. Yes, I second guess myself all the time. And that's just exactly what you want to hear out of your general manager. I second guess myself all the time. That doesn't really give me too much optimism heading into the draft, but I don't think I've ever had any optimism surrounding this front office and surrounding the ownership group. Maybe when I was a kid, maybe when I was too naive to understand what was actually going on, but now that I'm in this space, I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys on a daily basis, I have to analyze things from a more critical lens. And I'm being critical right now. I'm not really excited about Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones having their fingerprints all over these rosters that we're going to be seeing in years to come. But that's the way it's always been, at least in my lifetime. I don't know about you guys in the comment section down below, but Jerry Jones has made a lot of mistakes, but he has also done some good things. So let's hope that they can draft well. They have drafted decently well. I will say that. Okay, now Mozzie Smith was not a great first-round pick, but he really started to come on and show some signs late in the season. But for the most part, their first-round picks have been pretty solid. CeeDee Lamb, obviously Micah Parsons, who I spoke about. I think Tyler Guyton is going to turn into a nice player. Zach Martin was a first-round pick. Like, there have been some definite hits that the Dallas Cowboys have drafted, especially in recent years. So I'm not too mad about the drafting, but this one is a very critical one because we saw the lack of weapons on offense. We saw the lack of a run game until towards the end of the season when it was too little too late. And the pass rush has been fine, but the run defense turned around a little bit towards the end of the season, but just not enough. Micah Parsons, another double-digit sack season, so that was great to see. A first-round pick of our own, and just one of the 4 players ever to have 10 sacks in his first 4 seasons in the NFL. So it was great to see his progression, great to see him back and healthy, but going to be no DeMarvion Overshown next season, at least for the most part. So you got to believe that linebacker is going to be a heavy area of focus in this draft. Maybe Jalen Walker from Georgia. That would be fantastic. That would truly be fantastic, but I just don't think he drops to the Dallas Cowboys at number 12. Remains to be seen, but highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. And this is what you had to be cheering for the best possible draft pick for the Dallas Cowboys. The Falcons lost, so that's not great, but the Commanders did beat the boys. The Colts did beat the Jags. I'm not sure about the San Francisco and Arizona score right now, and the Jets were kind of beaten up on the Dolphins. So not great, but I still think the Cowboys are going to have a top 14 pick. I don't know where they stand as of now, but this was the pathway to the best possible pick for Dallas. I believe 11 was the best or the highest that they could move up to, and 18 or 16 or 17 was the worst that they could go down to. So they're not going to get down that far, and it remains to be seen how high exactly they do draft. We know that Tennessee is going to have the number 1 pick. They're probably either going to go with Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, which I don't think are great selections. I kind of lean more on the side of Cam Ward than I do of Shedeur Sanders, but remains to be seen which direction the Titans want to go in. They have some decent weapons. They have Tony Pollard, of course, former Cowboy, and their defense, not too bad. They have some playmakers on that side of the football, so it's going to be interesting to see how they approach this draft. But the Cowboys going to have a top 15 pick. I wanted them to get Tetaroa McMillan. I think he's going to be the best player in this draft. I don't know if that's a bit of a hot take, but I love the combination of physicality, of speed that he brings to the table, and just the overall hands that he possesses. I think McMillan is going to be an absolute star. We saw Mike Evans have his 11th straight 1,000-yard season. I think Tetaroa McMillan has that same kind of game-breaking ability and has the potential to be a long-standing stud in this league. I don't know if the Cowboys are going to get him. Probably not if they're picking in the 11 to 15 range or 12 to 15 range, but still, there are some other playmakers that they can get. Luther Burden III is another name that I've touched on a couple of times on this podcast. I think Luther Burden is a big-time playmaker at the wide receiver position. I really do. So that would be nice. Omarion Hampton maybe a little bit later in the 3rd round. Caleb Johnson from Iowa, the running back. There are a number of different avenues that the Cowboys can take in terms of addressing some of their roster needs, but I think you have to get a wide receiver in the 1st round, and I hope that they go in that direction because it's been a while since they've actually taken a skill position player early in the draft. But this is another thing that I wanted to touch on here. Jerry Jones talking about having an incentive-based contract for his next head coach, and then Jane Slater kind of pushed back on that, saying, why would someone want to come here if there's that level of risk involved? Injuries could always happen. Bad contracts could always happen, which is not up to the head coach. So then he said, I don't want anyone here that's not going to want to be here. That's basically where Jerry stands with that. So Mike McCarthy also said that, hey, I'm a Super Bowl winning coach. I know what I can bring to the table. He's confident in his abilities. I don't know if a reunion is going to happen between those two sides, but remains to be seen. It's going to be a very long offseason. I hope we all enjoy the year, even though it kind of sucked. This was the last Dallas Cowboys game that we are going to see for a very long time. So strap in for the offseason, and shout out to you guys. Keep it locked here on Cowboys Digest for everything that you need to know leading up to the draft, after the draft, and once free agency opens. But it's been real. It's been a year of growth, both on and off the field. So I'll see you all either tomorrow or in a couple of days, and we'll break down what to expect come draft time once everything is settled. And I'll see you all. Go Cowboys.